Day 1 was a very normal Australian day. Waking up at the beach, blackout drunk, scratching my arm, not knowing what the hell was going on. Because, it's pretty average. Except this time, it didn't feel like Australia. Like, that doesn't look like the pub, so, I did what every sane human being would do. And I took my anger problems out on the first tree I could find. It was quite relieving. Then I decided to unlock a few items and I found myself a mate. So I went out and picked some berries and shoved a few of them up his bum, and before you know it, we were best of mates. After that, we noticed we leveled up and we thought it would be a good idea to unlock a few engrams. First we started with some clothing and unlocked a few building materials. Then we unlocked a few weapons, but the most important thing to unlock was the cooking pot, as the cooking pot would help us level up to level 70, and it would stop us from being a beach bob. We spent the rest of the night gathering up a bunch of materials, so by day 2 in the morning we would have everything we needed to build our very first outpost. The truth of the matter is, we wouldn't really be living here for too long, but it kinda did look sweet. Straight after that, we decided to go out and kill a few dinos. Yeah, no, we just harvested the dead corpses. These two killed each other. But we were lucky enough to get ourselves our very first feed, and it just so happened to be prime meat, As the meat was cooking on the barbie, I decided to take a look at my home, and I could only think, I wish I had a beer. But there was no time to think that, as I didn't want to feel like a beach bob anymore, so I wanted to hit level 70 ASAP, and that involved grabbing every node I could and then jumping straight into the water. Oh well, that's not it. You have to hit a few rocks and craft cooking pots because they're really good XP, and before you know it, you're level 70. That's how easy it is. It's very easy. We then unlocked the boat, as we'd be spending most of our time on this until we get to the first boss. Then we unlocked every single engram we would need to complete the Overseer. So everything was done, and we said goodbye to our beautiful little outpost, and we jumped straight into the water. As we were falling, we looked back at our dino and prayed there were no sharks. Lucky for us, there weren't. Now, before we left our little note run island, I thought it would be a good idea to fully do up the boat. Instead of just driving it bare bone, we thought we'd gather some materials and do what we could. So we spent most of the day and all night gathering what we could. As the sun set, our luck began to change, as we were about to meet our first level 150 foe, and he happened to be the hardcore ruiner himself, the Trudon. We managed to deal with him quite easy, thanks to good old mate. As we were building the boat, we ended up getting distracted. It was a parasaur getting chased by a raptor, but there was nothing we could do about it. Now, put an F in chat if you feel as bad as I do. Poor bugger, I even tried to go help him over the mountain. But by the time we got over there, he was ready to bat our booty hole. So we had to quickly run back to the moss chops, and we dealt with that quite easily. Straight after that, we gathered the hide, and the sun was rising, and it was day 4. What a beautiful sunrise. And we had finally finished our little boat, and then we filled it with a storage and a forge, and we were ready to leave the Note Run Island. Our first step on our journey was complete. We hit level 70, we built ourselves a home, we ended up taming this fat idiot, and not too bad if I might say so myself. As we approached the next step in our journey, I happened to notice a new potential best mate, as the one we had was a bit fat and stupid. So we decided to park the boat and gather a few materials. The most important material we needed was metal, and as I was gathering it, I almost made a mistake that cost me this 100 days.
Oh, yes! am broken. Perhaps you could toss me a band-aid or some anti-bacterial cream.
So yeah, we don't talk about that. Anyway, after that I decided to craft myself a metal pickaxe to get even more metal. So I ran out, gathered some more metal, crafted everything I would need, and then I happened to find a drop, and to my surprise, Ark being Ark what it was, I got compasses. Not one, but two, plural, compasses. I then went to check on old mate and see how he was going, and he was still sticking around, so I crafted up a few more forges and crafted my first set of armor, and we were ready to rock and roll. The only thing I had to do was wait on pants, you know. You don't want to go in there without pants, you know. You gotta protect what you need to protect. Unless you don't like to wear pants, but that's a you choice, not a me choice. By morning, we were ready to rock and roll. So I loaded up both crossbows and I headed over there. To my surprise, after setting up everything, I noticed he wasn't there. I'm not even joking. Like, you can't script this crap. So me being the beach bob I am, thought it would be a good idea to go on foot. And then this piranha started getting angry at me, and look, I honestly didn't know what I was doing wrong, but he had something wrong with me, you know. He wanted to eat my booty hole, and I just didn't want anything to do with it, you know. But even as I was coming up to the surface, he came back, and then ended up biting my booty hole. But anyway, enough about that. We ended up getting this guy's attention quite easily. At this point of the playthrough, I was honestly just YOLOing it. If I died, I died. And even though I knew this was a stupid idea, I honestly didn't care. Now, you guys are going to probably be sitting there after this playthrough thinking to yourselves, how many times did this guy almost die? What I want you to do is write RIP in chat for each time I almost die. And by the end of it, you can tell me how many times I almost bloody died. And with no time at all, we had him on the run and knocked out in the water. And believe it or not, this is not the only YOLO thing I do in this playthrough. At this point, we were pretty much unstoppable. In this entire playthrough, we were unstoppable. Our next step was to get ourselves some prime meat. But we couldn't really find any on the island, so we settled with prime fish meat. Now, it wasn't the best thing to tame a spino, but the spino was only low level, so we didn't really need to get levels into it. We ran over to the spino, stuffed it in its bum, and before you know it, it was our best mate. Straight after that, we ran out to a green drop, and to my surprise once again, nothing but crap. We then took the safer approach to jumping off the edge of a cliff and landed in the water, thank goodness. Later on throughout the day, we ended up finding ourselves a 115 Pteranodon to tame. So we bolted her up, stuffed the rest of the prime fish meat in there, and then we spent the rest of the night gathering all the materials we could, and we waited for the Pteranodon to tame on up. By day 6, we had our very first flyer. And it'll allow us to fly up to a mountain where we can get our next material and our next dino, Crystal and an Argentavis. After flying back to our base, we thought it would be a good idea to repair our armor before heading back out. We then jumped back on the PT and headed to the closest crystal spawn that I could think of. Now, the PT can't really hold too much crystal, so we just gathered as much as we could, threw it into the PT, and before you knew it, we were already back at home. See, we needed to get ourselves a crystal so we could build ourselves a spyglass, and with the spyglass we can see the levels of the Argentavis, and we want to try and get the highest level possible. So that's what we did. Jumped back on the PT, headed straight out, and we looked for the highest level. Now, it took a little bit of searching, but after a good long while we happened to find a high enough level. It just so happened to be a 145 Argentavis, which was perfect. We didn't need a level 150 for this one. So we quickly built our trap. Then we did the treacherous task of trying to get it in the trap. But lucky for me, this Argentavis wasn't too hard to get in the trap. Instead of opening and closing the door, it's probably best to put it in your inventory and just place it down when it flies in and hits you a few times. See? Big brain plays, you know. Not small brain plays. Afterwards, I did the perfect amount of tranks. I don't know, it's just intuition. I just knew it was going to go down. Maybe this stupid amount of hours I've put in this game. We're not going to talk about the amount. But straight after that, I decided instead of just sitting around, I'm going to fill up the RG as I'm sitting around waiting for it to tame up. the thought of it was still kind of hitting me. How many hours have I played Ark for? I've played Ark since it came out on Xbox, PlayStation and PC. But then I realised why I play this game. Because it's a beautiful game. The PvP, the PvE, I couldn't even begin to explain the amount of amazing friends I've made from this game. And I just wanted to say, thanks to y'all, you make this game a little bit better. Just a little bit. Some of you's worse, but most of you's are better. After watching the view and reminiscing on old times, we decided to name our bird after the past 2 beautiful years that we've had, And he was named after the first bird that we had in the second playthrough. We then jumped back on our PT and did the strenuous journey of taking the Argentavis all the way back to base. Now, if you found yourself enjoying the video so far, why not subscribe, or even like the video. Anything you do, comment, like, subscribe, anything helps, and I would highly appreciate it, as this video took me a hell of a long time to make. After arriving safely at home, we thought it would be a good idea to strap a saddle on the Argy. Then we flew it over to the boat, parked her, and took off all the resources and threw them straight into the forge. Our next objective was to get some cementing paste, so we needed to jump back on the Argy and go hunt down some turtles. After killing a bunch of turtles, we noticed we didn't have anywhere near enough chitin or keratin to make cementing paste for what we needed. So we flew around to known beaver dams and we were lucky enough to find one. Now, here's a tip. If you want the beaver dams to spawn back, make sure you dump all of the wood. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of sit there and rot. And another tip, to get the beaver dams to spawn back even quicker, kill all the beavers. Straight after that, we thought it would be a good idea to go to another drop. And to our surprise, we then decided to go fishing, relax a little bit, and out of bloody nowhere. So yeah, there I was, stuck, thinking to myself, I'm about to lose this 100 days challenge. And somehow, I survived. Don't ask me how, but I bloody did. As I was swimming to the edge, it just reminded me of the first playthrough I done where one of those things came out of nowhere and ruined it for everyone. I jumped straight back on my bird and out of nowhere again. Yeah, these are the struggles that I face. So I kind of built up the courage and, well, maybe anger. I think it was possibly anger, and I killed it. I'm sorry, Mr. Mike Raptor, but you bloody deserve to die. Straight after that, I jumped on the bird and I literally took it out on everything I could find. Everything. Absolutely everything. I spent the entire afternoon killing everything on that bloody beach. And I found myself another drop, and to my surprise. So, after a stressful 7th day, I thought it would be a good idea to go home, wind down a little bit. Day 8, no time for mucking around. I flew straight out to the snow, and I thought it would be a good idea to grab some oil and some silica pearls. 2 things needed to craft a fabricator and a Spino saddle. We placed the fabricator on top of the boat as there was no room down below, and we headed straight back out to the redwoods to find ourselves a Rex. We needed to start our Rex army ASAP if we wanted to have any chance on taking out these bosses, but unfortunately for us, we could only find a low level. So we tamed it up, because, why not? It lost a bunch of levels to these little bloody bastards, and then we lost a high level Rex to those guys again. After the low level Rex tamed up, we took him straight back to base, and we thought it would be a good idea to name the rest of our dinos. We named the Spino Speedo, because, you know, he's a quick bastard. We named the Rex something very suitable, Rex, because that's all I could think of, and it fits very well. We named the Moss Chops something very suitable, as he's like a lawnmower, you know, he likes chopping up the lawn, that's what he does. We spent the entire night on the boat grinding out different materials and different things we needed to tame the Rex army. And by the end of the night, we pretty much had everything we would need for the rest of the playthrough. See, in Ark, every dino gathers something, and it's always best to tame a dino because it gathers a lot more than you can with your hand. And the big fat idiot, the Moss Chops, actually helped out a lot more. Now I knew he would be good for something. We took some of the arrows we crafted and we headed straight back out to the redwoods for the next few days, as it was our mission and our next mission to get a high level Rex. We weren't going to stop. And lucky for us, we found a nice crossbow. A few of them actually. We spent the first 2 days searching high and low, and there was just nothing to be seen. We just kept killing Rexes and more were spawning, but not the level we were seeking. But we gave up and we found ourselves a bear to tame. And I may have messed up with this trap a little bit. But all aside, it was an easy tame. The trap, see, it works. The trap worked. No matter how bad it is, it worked and it done the job. So we knocked the bear out, we filled it full of berries, and we went looking for another Rex. Lucky for us, we found a 135. Wasn't exactly the level we wanted, but it was high enough. We then found ourselves another bear, similar level, just a little bit higher. So we knocked her out, tamed her up the same way. We farmed around for a few beaver dams for a little bit, made sure we dumped all the wood, tip number 1. And then we raced home as we noticed we were not wearing any armor. Now, there's a few things you'll see different about my 100 days compared to a lot of other people's, and that's because I changed the difficulty setting to 5. And that means every boss, every cave, and every dino is a lot harder. I was running around all night collecting drops, and I was a bit cold, so I built a few fires. And straight after that, we needed to get polymer. And there's only one way to get it. Now, I felt a little bit bad, but it was really the only free way to get polymer, and I made sure none went to waste. As I was eating, I got visited by a few guests. I'm pretty sure they could smell the baby pingus that I was cooking, and I think they wanted some. It was day 15, and we had finally gotten back to base. I thought it would be a good idea to, put that polymer to good use, so we sat there near a drop and waited for it to fall so we could craft our cryopods, and by the time it dropped, we noticed we didn't have the polymer on us. We left it back at base. So we grabbed it, made sure we had everything, and then started crafting all of our cryopods. The next thing we had to do was go straight through the redwoods and cryopod our bear and our Rex. And thank God our Rex turned out to be level 202 with some pretty decent stats. On our way home, one of our subscribers, Bobzilla, came out of bloody nowhere and decided to pay us a visit. Thank God I threw the Rex out and he gave that little fanboy what he needed. But in all seriousness, at that point, I kind of did think my 100 days was over. As the sun was setting, I was getting a little bit bored, so I felt like a bit of a night adventure. So I took the bear out, and we thought it would be a good idea to travel straight to our first artifact cave. And on the way there, for some stupid reason, I thought it would be a good idea to go straight past our famous beach. And we ran straight back into our friend. And not only that, but a Trudon also came up to us. So at this point we were kind of shitting bricks and we thought, get the hell out. And then I immediately thought, do a loop around, jump straight on the bear. And yeah, we were pretty much fine as soon as we got across the river. So we swam across, we chilled there, we waited for the narcotic effect to wear off, and we went straight back across, only to run straight back into the Microraptor. After we fought our way through our vacation beach, we decided to hit up the artifact cave, and pretty much as soon as I entered the cave, a friendly bat came up to me and decided to give me rabies. And with rabies, it pretty much kills you. It leaves you on like the tiniest minuscule of health. I was about ready to turn around and head out, but then I thought this wouldn't be a proper 100 days hardcore if I didn't just turn around. I tried eating, nothing would work, and I didn't have any med brews. I was kind of silly to hit up my first cave without any med brews, but, you know, YOLO. So I went straight forward and I kept continuing down the dark caverns. I was taking it slow, as there was more than just bats to worry about, and there were a hell of a lot of bats to worry about. I also ended up stumbling across a pretty nice loot box. But I couldn't celebrate just yet, as the artifact was still at the very bottom of the cave. I was making my way through, and then I noticed out of the corner of my eye a small crocodile. Mate, we get crocs here 3 times the size of that. After dealing with the local wildlife, we had finally found the artifact room. So, we jumped straight off Bearstone, and we made our way straight down. Easy. Well, we celebrated a little bit too early because we ended up jumping straight off a cliff and almost killing good old Bearstone, but we won't let that ruin a good time now, will we, Bearstone? On our way through the redwood, we seen an alpha raptor and I couldn't help myself but try to take him out. And Bearstone almost got taken out himself. But we managed to find ourselves an upgraded crossbow, so, you know, win-win. We made our way safely through the redwoods, for once, and as soon as we got home we thought it would be a good idea to rest up Bearstone, and rest up ourselves, as that day was pretty bloody hard. The next day, we found ourselves at the snow again. We thought we would take a little break, and instead of going for artifacts or going for Rexes, we would go for something that would cheer us up a little bit. And I would say this is probably my favourite tame in the entire game. It's simple, it's easy, and I don't know why, but every time I ride one of these things, my luck just gets boosted. So we had a few bowled, and I noticed there was one still taking chunks out of my PT, but he managed to knock it up, and after he got bored of that, he decided to come running straight for me, and I unfortunately couldn't reach my PT. So I thought it would be best to run away, pull out the bowler, turn around, and try to take care of this guy first. But in the corner of my eye, I noticed my PT started getting attacked. So I had to quickly deal with him and then run straight over to my PT before it died. I jumped straight over the rock and I honestly didn't think I was going to make it. But I jumped straight on the PT and flew straight out of there. We flew over to the dog and it managed to get knocked out, but in the place of the other 2 dogs, a bloody Uteranus spawned in. And it scared the living shit out of my PT. So we threw it off the cliff and then we ran straight back to the dog that was laying there and we threw what meat we had in. And before you know it, he was up and he was tamed. We named it Lucky, as you'll see here. We ended up fighting another pack of wolves and I thought I could take him. Up until the point that where I was like, yeah, no, they're outnumbering me, and I jumped off the side of the cliff. I honestly didn't expect Lucky to survive, but he did, and he earned himself that name. We ended up sitting on an iceberg until it was kind of just killing my buzz, and I thought, you know, bugger it, I'm just going to go for it. It's either now or never. So I jumped from one iceberg to another to try and maintain what little health I had. But I only had a little bit of a distance as soon as I hit the shoreline. My worst enemy at this point was probably the snow. That and them stupid bloody pigs. But we weren't going to let anything hold us back. So we went straight for it. We ran up the hill, we took out a little bit of an RG corpse for a bit of health, and before we knew it, we were out of the snow. We threw Lucky into a cryopod and we decided to jump on the PT to go out looking for a few loot drops, but we weren't really successful, so we waited till next morning to head on back out. Now look, at this point you're probably asking yourself, what's with Bearstain's name? Now, I don't know what part of the multiverse you're from, whether it's Berenstein, Berenstein, Berenstain, Berenspoon, mate. It's Berenstain with an E. After finally naming the bear, we thought it would be a good idea to take Lucky out for a bit of an artifact run. So we headed to what I thought would be the easiest cave for Lucky, and we took him for a bit of a run through. After we cleared out all the spiders and snakes and every other little baddie inside of this cave, we finally found the artifact room. So we jumped straight off Lucky and we grabbed ourselves our second artifact. Only one more to do the first boss. And we had 3 bosses to do and the Overseer. So that's a bloody lot of artifacts to go through. The cave started making me feel a little bit claustrophobic, and to celebrate I decided to strip down and cryo all the dinos and head straight for the green orb, as that would be where we would encounter our first boss. But before leaving, I couldn't help but say goodbye to our second stop on our adventure. Just as the day had started to calm down and my blood pressure had slowly come to, where it's meant to be, Ark couldn't help but throw another surprise at me.
Oh, hell no!
Yeah, at that point I thought the whales were like soft little cuddly bears. They just wanted a bit of a snuggle, so I thought I would try and shoo it away. I immediately regretted that. We managed to get away safely, and thank God we made it to the other side of the island before that thing took a chunk out of the boat. With the adrenaline pumping through our blood, we thought it would be a good idea to go straight for the artifact cave and go for our third artifact, making it the final artifact for the first boss. Now this was something we needed to get used to, as this cave was full of bats. Oh wait, isn't every cave full of bats? Yeah, I think every single cave in this game is full of bats. Anyway, as you can see, within the first 10 seconds, we managed to get ourselves some rabies. But we didn't let that hold us back, we just pushed straight ahead. We made our way straight to the artifact room, and we lured over all the bats that we could, so we could take them out before having the Spider-Man our ass over there. We made our way down to the edge and we grappled as far as we could, hopefully slinging us right next to the artifact. And lucky enough, we did. Bam. Just as we were grabbing the artifact, we ended up getting slung by a bloody spider. But it actually made us feel kind of like Spider-Man on our way out. We can't be upset with that now, can we? We jumped straight on the bear, and then we just headed straight for the entrance. We just headed. We didn't even jump. We just ran in a bloody straight line. And with that, we had the third artifact. We were pretty much ready to do the first boss. The only thing we needed now was a Uranus and our Rex army raised and going. We head straight back out to the Redwood, where we would need to try and find any higher level dino at this point. I'd pretty much take a high level Parasaur into the boss fight at this point. But lucky for us, we managed to find these 2 idiots stuck together, so we knocked them both out and we stuffed some meat in their bum and we let them be. As the 2 Allosauruses were taming, we decided to go out and look for some high level Rexes, but we weren't really having any luck, so we took out any low level we can in the hopes that a high level would spawn in its place. We also managed to find a blue drop that, almost ended our career. and this bloody idiot just decided to land there. At this point, looking for Rexes was really annoying. It had taken me so many days out of this playthrough just to try and find one higher level Rex. So I ran back to the Allosauruses, I let them do their business. After they were done, I grabbed the egg and I decided to cryopod them up and head straight back to base to where I would store them. And believe it or not, we head straight back out to the mountain to look for a high level Rex. We were just having no luck, so I decided to run around and tame a few low level females to breed with the Rex that I already had. It didn't have the best stats, but with a few mutations, I'm pretty sure I could have worked something out. As we were waiting for the Rex to tame on up, we thought it would be a good idea to go home and grab some supplies. And then we seen some bloody stupid raptor come and try and eat our boat. And then he started doing 360s in the water, so I thought I would try and tame him. I shot him with a few arrows and he swam straight out in the water and he decided to take a nap under the water. I didn't want to disturb his peace and he was losing a bit of bloody oxygen, but it's not my business, so I let him be. I let him have a good sleep. Who knows if he survived. We then went straight back up to the mountain after grabbing a cryopod and we cryoed the female Rex. Straight after that we found another female Rex, only low level as we didn't need stats in the females, only the male needed the stats. We would get everything we needed in our babies, and if it didn't have what we needed, then we would kill it, unfortunately. After the female Rex went down, I felt like I was missing something, and I was. My bird. Where the hell was my Argy? Lucky for me, I found it, but he was getting a bit roughed up. And I don't know what it is about this bloody playthrough, but I managed to save every dino in the nick of time. After dealing with the saber-tooth, we thought it would be a good idea to just kind of sit, chill, and wait for the Rex to tame on up. And within no time at all, we had a new Rex to add to the breeding. We're not going to take this Rex into the boss. No, I think this will get two shot. When we got home, we happened to notice our friend still sleeping under the water. He was taking a good long nap, he was. We thought it would be nice and just let him be for a bit. But the Rexes had other ideas, and I was more than happy to collect the eggs afterwards, as these eggs could potentially be the soldiers to my new army. I thought I would take a break from the breeding, and I honestly didn't know how the Rexes had the energy in them. The next thing we needed was saddles, and a lot of them, and for that I needed a hell of a lot of metal, and we didn't even have an Anki yet, so the next goal was to go tame a high level Anki. After knocking out the Anki, we decided to gather as much metal as we could by hand and throw them into the furnaces, so at least those were burning while the Anki was taming. And before we headed back to the island, I thought it would be a good idea to make a few saddles. I built us a few more forges just to get ready for the large supply of metal we were about to receive. And we chilled out on the boat for the rest of the night and collected whatever eggs we could find. So by morning, we were heading straight back to the island, but we weren't heading back there to collect the Anki. We were going there for a specific resource, and that resource happened to be guarded by a lot of bloody sharks. That was oil.
Get out of the water, there's a shark! What? A shark? Get out of the water! Shark? There's a shark in the water!
Wait, there's no shark in the bathtub.
We had an alpha shark on our tail, and lucky for us, we ended up getting out of the water in the nick of time. So we went over to the other side of the island where it was a little bit safer, and we farmed what oil we could find. And lucky for us, there was not a shark in sight. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to ask you to subscribe and like and you know what everyone else does, but you do you, I'm happy with that. Once both Ankis were tamed, we cryopoded one and then we grabbed the other one with the RG and we headed straight back for base. We were kind of wondering how to spell Jerry, Jerry with a G or Jerry with an IE, just spelling ain't my strong suit. So we sat there for a little bit, we contemplated, and then we settled with Jerry with a G. We then took Jerry with a G out to grab ourselves some more resources. But we didn't end up doing just one metal run. we were there for pretty much the whole night, doing metal run over and over and over, just so this would be the only metal run we would have to do for this entire playthrough. And then we decided to move to my favourite part of Ark, the breeding. So I've played Ark for a long time, and I've been in quite a few mega tribes, and my job was to breed gigas. After a while, I learned to love it, and I learned a hell of a lot about breeding. We made one final stop on our way to the Green Ob, and then we filled our RG and took straight off. This would be the last time we would use the raft in this playthrough. Once we got to the Green Ob, we decided to clear out a few of the locals, as they weren't too happy about our arrival. After doing that, we decided to clear out the area so we could build ourselves our first little base. We worked our way all through the night, and by day 28, we had our very first hatchery. Time to start hatching this army. So we threw out our dinos so they could get us a few more eggs, and we decided to build a feeding trough and go out and gather some meat. We were doing meat runs all night, and we were filling up as much as we could inside of the troughs and inside of the dinos that were there. Day 29 to day 35. The time had finally come. It was time to look after babies. So here's a little fun fact about me that you didn't know. I've got a 4-week-old daughter sitting right next to me, and it's currently 5:30 in the morning, and I've been up all bloody night editing and looking after this little munchkin. The joys of being a dad, am I right? And she's just as needy as these little buggers, so I love her to death. But we also decided to build our very first home, and that took a little bit of time. So we were building as we were imprinting, as we were building. You know, it was fun, the joys of Ark, you know what I'm saying? But we were taking this time as if it was a vacation, as compared to the rest of what we were doing, it was very relaxing. And before you knew it, we were done. But I felt like it was missing something. There. You know, what's a 100 days without a little bit of a touch of the man himself? You know, looking after babies is definitely not repetitive. It's 100% not. Like, you know, imprinting them all the time, not repetitive. Doing meat runs all the time, definitely not repetitive. Filling troughs all the time, no way, not repetitive. You know, going back out and doing more meat runs, definitely not repetitive. It's fun. It's the best experience you can have. So I took my anger out on penguins. You know, that's how I deal with my shit. I want to introduce you guys to the family. Say hello, Jimmy. Hello, Johnny. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Sally. Hello, Charlie. Hello, Maxie. Hello, Mary. Fucking Harry, you know, Gary. Fucking Beverly. Fucking, you know, Muhammad. Not the prophet, but just the name. You know, I don't want to offend anyone, and neither does he. We also had Mike. He was cool. And, you know, a confused Rex, but we loved her. And then came the treacherous task of leveling. But first I have to build a bunch of idiots bloody saddles. So I took them all out in groups of around 5 or 6, and, you know, we went leveling, as that would have been the easiest. If I took them all out, I don't think it would have just worked out. So we were there for 2 whole days leveling all the dinos, and, you know, finally we had our army ready. We only needed a few more things. Now, out of every tame in the game, I would rate this my most hated. So I thought I would try it without a trap in hardcore, you know, YOLO for the experience. And I immediately regretted it. So I threw out my Pteranodon and I jumped on him straight away. And he just pretty much shit himself straight away. So we're just going to let that go. We tried to get the Uranus down, but unfortunately, we killed him. But our luck wasn't that bad, or so we thought. We found a Uranus stuck inside of a hole. And you know how I said I didn't want to do this with traps? Yeah, that came to bite me in the bum later. I ended up falling inside of the hole, but this isn't what I'm talking about. Lucky for us, PT was there, as, you know, if we were stuck there, that could have just been game over. We thought it would be a good idea to stop jumping around like idiots and, you know, just sit there until the morning. And Then the Ark gods decided to intervene. Yeah, I think he got abducted by bloody aliens or something. And, you know, lucky us, as I was saying, we're extremely lucky in this one. He fell straight in the water. Now, I don't know what it is with dinos in this game, but I guess they just like sleeping underwater. So we left him there and, you know, good night, sweet dreams, Mr. Uranus. Straight after that, we decided to fly back to base and gather some more materials and head straight back out, as without a Uranus, our army would pretty much be useless against all the bosses that we're going to be facing. And we had a broodmother, a monkey, and a bloody dragon to face. Not only that, we had to defeat the overseer as well. Halfway through day 48, we actually knocked a Uranus out on the beach without a trap. You know, the Ark gods appeased and they didn't throw it into the air, so win-win. Day 41 and day 42. Day 41, we spent all day crafting med brews, so we didn't really need any med brews for the next few bosses to come. And day 42, we spent all day looking at Rexes, as we were waiting for him to heal, and I honestly didn't think it would take this long. Like, I even had the settings pumped up and it was still just taking him ages. So our next step was to go get a pig. It was day 43 and it was going to be the biggest day yet. We finally found ourselves a level 130 Deodon, so we knocked her out. And then we noticed a Uranus that was close, so we tried our best to get rid of it, and we didn't notice our stamina. And not only that, but then we ran into an Alpha Carno. So there I was, running through the bush in hardcore with an Alpha Carno running behind me. I knew this was the end. I didn't think my 160 speed would save me. And not only that, but just around the corner was another Uranus. So I had two bloody dinos chasing me. And thank God for this little fight. I turned around and both of them were off my back. So now I had the struggling task of trying to get back home with no bloody flyer. And my luck was even getting better as a blizzard had just set in. So I quickly built myself a few fires and I waited the blizzard out. By the time the blizzard was finished, I had one goal on my mind, and that was to go get my favourite tame in the game. But it's like fate was calling this wolf, as it just ran out of nowhere by itself. No pack, just him by himself, ready to be tamed. The thing was, I was still freezing to death, so I needed to quickly get this wolf bowled, knocked out, and food inside of it, otherwise I would pretty much die on the side of this mountain. The Deodon had finally tamed, and so did the direwolf, but it was still freezing cold, and if I'd left the mountain at this time of night, I probably would have died by the time I got to the bottom of the mountain. So I sat next to the fires until morning broke. It was time for me and Lucky 2.0 to get the hell off this mountain. So we ran like hell and we didn't look back. We ran straight through the deep marshes and straight past any enemy we came into contact with, sitting there considering how lucky we were. This dog right here had just saved this 100 days. We traversed over the Rocky Mountains and our next step was the Redwood. We sped straight through there and didn't give anything the chance to jump on us. But now we had the swamp to deal with. We ran straight around the swamp as, you know, fuck that. And then an old friend decided to pay us a visit. Lucky for us, we had Lucky 2.0. This dog pretty much deserves to be in the Hall of Fame at this point. We were pretty stunned and pretty happy that we made it down the mountain, so we did something a little stupid. But lucky for us, Lucky 2.0 is a chat among tames. We ended up taking the rest of the day off and just chilling out with Lucky, and by day 45, it was time to do our first boss. Now, remember how I said I changed the difficulty settings to get 150 dinos on the island? Well, that changed the boss difficulty, so I thought doing Gamma to begin with would be a good idea. Turns out it was a little bit too easy, because I had some pretty OP Rexes. But he wasn't the only boss we were fighting. We also had to face the monkey, the dragon, and the overseer. And the overseer was a big fight. And the Rexes seemed to get a little bit too excited from the boss fight. Anyway, we had our first boss head. And that meant we were one step closer to beating the island. So our next step was to go get some more artifacts. So we went to a swamp cave and dove straight in there with our bear. Good old bear stain. This cave was a little bit different though. It seemed like something you could live in. I would have to say that this is probably one of my favourite caves on the island. But we weren't here sightseeing, we were here for one thing specifically, and that was the artifact of the Pact. And it's just up in this tiny little crack up here. It's almost impossible to see, and without watching someone else's YouTube video, you would probably never find it. After grappling into the tiny space that no one would ever find, we made our way down to the artifact, but I heard something, and lucky I did, because there was a scorpion ready to bite my booty hole. So I took him out with good old bear stain with an E, and then we grabbed the first artifact for the next boss. But our adventure wasn't done, as we were flying straight to the next artifact cave on Kano Island. Now this artifact cave is once again full of bats, so I had to watch out to not get the rabies, you know. Either that or I would have to be in lockdown for another 2 weeks, and who the hell wants to be in that again, you know? Bugger that crap. So I took out everything as quick as I could, and I cleared myself a nice little space, as well as we found ourselves a nice little loot box. As I was creeping to the edge, I needed to come up with a plan, as walking the bear down there would mean that I could probably get the rabies, you know? So I lured every single one of the bats over, and I prepared myself with the bear, as sprinting with the bear does more damage. So I just ran in circles so I could get the most DPS I could. It seemed to work, as most of the bats were cleared, so now I had to traverse the cave. After making it down near the bottom, I noticed there was a massive group of bats, and I knew some of these bats would be high level, so I needed to try and take them down as quick as possible. Lucky for me, they were in groups, so I just dealt with them easily. And before we knew it, we had our next artifact. After grabbing the artifact, we made it straight out of the cave, as we needed to get our booty on a rush if we wanted to get this 100 days done. Now, this cave was a beautiful cave, but I didn't have any time at all to sit there and admire it. I grappled straight up and I rushed the hell out of there. As the next cave we needed to go to, we needed to do a little bit of preparation before going into the cave. See, the next cave is an underwater cave, and there's a few different ways you can do underwater caves. You can do them with dolphins, or you can do them with basilos, and the basilos are the harder option. You'll find out why in a little bit. But to get a basilo, it's probably easier to tame a shark first, as there's a hell of a lot of dinos around the basilo you need to deal with. So I knocked out 2 sharks and I used one of them to feed the other one. Definitely not forced cannibalism, so don't think about it, it just is what it is. We then took our newly tamed shark and we went out to find our first basilo. We took out all the stingrays around the basilo, as they would cause a problem if we didn't. I can certainly say I have a fear of water. Like, I don't know what type of phobia you call it, of deep, dark oceans, but this point of the game, I was actually shitting myself, and I wanted to stay on my shark as much as I could. Getting off my shark, I was having a heart attack. But finally, we had our first basilo tamed, and with that, we went straight to the artifact cave. We landed on the rocks right next to the underwater cave, and we headed straight in with our basilo. We honestly had no idea what we were about to get ourselves into. We swam straight past the mosasaur. Thank God we didn't get his attention. We made our way into the last room of the underwater cave, where we ran into a bunch of sharks. And for some odd reason, I thought I could take them. So I turned around and started attacking, and out of the corner of my eye, I thought it was the alpha mosasaur. Thank God it was just an alpha shark, but still we were surrounded, and we were about to die. Now look, I don't know how I survived, but I did. But now I had something else to worry about. I was stuck in the middle of an underwater cave with no way to get out. I had an RG, but how the hell was I gonna fly out? And then I thought to myself, fuck it, I'm going out with a bang. So I raced straight down to the water. I healed myself up a little bit, threw on my scuba gear, and I went straight for the artifact, hoping to not get the attention of all the sharks. I knew I got the attention of the jellyfish, but if I kept my head low, then I would be getting out of there in no time. I made my way to the shore, and now I had another problem. I gotta make my way past the alpha mosasaur. I swam past that guy with my nuts between my legs, but I was almost out. Almost at the entrance to the cave, and when I made it, I was home free. We swam to the surface, and we made a vow never to go into the ocean again. At this point, I have no idea how I'd made it out of there, or even how I made it to day 48. At this point, I'd YOLO my ass all the way through this playthrough, and it was working the hell out. But no joke, after that, I took 2 days of relaxing. I sat on the toilet for 2 entire days. That's how bad I was shitting myself. Like, it's not even a joke. It's not even a joke. After shitting down for 2 whole days, we decided to find ourselves a new base spot. And the volcano was a really beautiful spot to build in. Plus, it was in the center of the map, so it held every resource we would need for our next adventure. And instead of chopping everything by hand, we decided up on good old Jerry. You know, he needed the workout, he was getting a little bit pudgy. But there was one resource that was a little bit hard to get, and that was wood. And I had to fly up and down the mountain each time I needed wood. So this base definitely wasn't going to be built out of wood. There was another resource around the mountain that was in high abundance, so we had to incorporate it into our building somehow. We placed down a good old Barbie and of course a fabricator, and then the generator to run the two, and before you knew it, the base, well, the shell of it, was done. So I was kind of lonely and I didn't really have anyone to show my base off to, so I showed Speedo. And, you know, he was pretty happy about it. The next thing on the list we needed to cross off was cementing paste, and a hell of a lot of it. But for that, we needed stone, and this group of cementing paste was just absorbing every little bit of stone I had. See, there's one thing in Ark you need to know, and you don't always need the best of the best. Not if you're smart enough. See, as for me, I'm not a smart fella, I'm a fart smeller. Wait, no, I'm a smart fella, not a fart smeller. That's the one. So, I put my brain to good use, and instead of running around and smacking crystal, I thought it would be a good idea to go for a better tame. One that would gather stone a bit more efficiently. And that dino is called the Duty Dickerus. After knocking him out, we threw out the moss chops, filled him up with some berries, and then head straight out to the snow. Now, we're in the snow for a little bit, and we all know what the cold does to a male. So I quickly ran to the shack, and I warmed it up a little. With the sun slowly setting on my back, and the beautiful sloshing sound of me gathering some organic polymer, I thought to myself, what a beautiful moment. But don't worry. We turned them into fridges, and with that, we could cool the meat that we barbecued. So, you know, win-win. Later in the afternoon, we're out gathering some fibre as my life flashed before my eyes. But then I remembered, I'm good at this game. What am I bloody worrying about? After flying back to base, we built ourselves a duty dickerous saddle. And instead of cryopodding it and bringing it home, I thought I'd do a little bit of a farm with it. I thought I'd get away without having to tame one of these things in this playthrough, but we really needed the stone. Straight after that, we found ourselves a really nice blueprint. We also crafted a few pieces of fur, but we needed more fur in order to do this next boss, as it was in a pretty cold place. So we went out, grabbed some fur, came home, made ourselves the armor, and with that, we were ready to do the boss fight. I was ready for this boss fight, but I was a little bit nervous. See, the Broodmother isn't too hard compared to the other two bosses. So before I left, I made sure I said goodbye to Speedo and Jerry. I couldn't help myself but on the way grab a few extra drops. But to my surprise, there was nothing good. But we had finally made it to the Blue Obelisk, home to the second Guardian we would be facing, the Megapithecus. I said that right this time. But there was one more trick I had up my sleeve, an extra tame, if you will. I'd like to introduce you guys to Krugerops, the man, the myth, the legend.
Alright, what's up, my dude? I heard you need some help with a boss or something. Let's just do it. Let's do it.
Oi, Jesus Christ. What the fuck are you trying What are you trying to do?
That's what makes me step away from a 100-day video
You're a
for
crazy
this.
bastard.
Alright,
Alright,
let's go
do
for
this
it.
shit.
Alright, awesome. That was fun, but you better not be uploading yours before I upload mine. Stop punching me.
Don't you bloody shoot me in here, you bugger.
Stop punching me.
I wanted to give a massive thank you to Krugerops. Even though you tried to kill me, mate, it was still fun having you around. The Guardian was done for, and we had an empty hole left in our heart, in our chest, if you will. And it's not because we were alone, it's because I got shot in the chest by Krugerops. So I decided to take a little break, and I decided to set myself up a new project. See, I had a vision in mind, and for this vision, it needed a hell of a lot of resources, and I wasn't ready to do that all by axe, so I needed to find a familiar friend. One of, I wouldn't say my favourite tames, but he sure is fun to tame. He has massive claws, he's quick as a mother flipper, and he kind of looks like a dolphin crossed with a chicken. The Therizinosaurus, also known as the Theri. Now, these little tickle chickens like to get a little bit frisky, but what they don't know is I'm also keen for a little bit of a party, you know? So he got a little bit scared and he decided to run away, so we put on the chase. We ended up losing him in the bushes, but before you knew it, he found us. So we were back on the run from the Theri, trying to get on the RG. Everything in the bloody bush was trying to kill us, and we were kind of lost in a way. But we quickly jumped back on the RG and we killed everything around us, and lucky for us, the Theri was stuck in a tree. Pro tip for taming Theris, make sure you watch their torpidity drop all the way to the bottom and spam feed them narco berries. Make sure they're narco berries because they have a slow rise. So you only really need to feed them once, and then you can do whatever you want for the rest of the time. And that's just what we did. We chilled out for another 5 days and we built, still keeping a close eye on the Theri as I wasn't used to taming a low level Theri, and with low level Theris comes a smaller torpidity, so that just means they're going to wake up a hell of a lot sooner. But thankfully he tamed, and now we didn't have to use a bloody hatchet anymore, so things were looking up. We were building non-stop, day and night, and eventually I could see this vision of mine slowly coming together. We had the outside of our castle finished, but we weren't going to stop there. We still had the inside to do, and we fiddled with a few things and finally came up with something that looked half decent. All I had was the treacherous task of trying to put the lights on the bloody towers. I fell off these towers over and over and over again until finally we were done. The castle even came with its own jumping board, which I used for the remainder of the afternoon. And at this point, I was thinking it couldn't get much better than this. We even happened to find ourselves a new friend, and I couldn't help but think to myself, why is every bloody friend I make try to friggin' kill me? At least this one was a little bit cuter. And his breath didn't smell like Cheetos and G Fuel from editing a 100 days for 2 weeks straight. I was kind of making it a little game to see if I could make it to the shore in time before the shark would get to me. And at one point, he was very, very close to biting my booty hole. But still, we couldn't help but antagonize the absolute living fuck out of this poor shark. I can certainly say he made for some awesome company. I definitely enjoyed myself on my little building holiday. We ended up building a few little extra houses as well as the castle, filled out the interior, and we also had a little bit of fun while we were doing it. But now, it was time to get our head back in the game. We had 4 artifacts to grab, 1 guardian to kill, and then the final tech cave and the overseer. So we still had a lot to do. After crafting pretty much everything we would need for the next 4 artifact caves, we flew straight back to the Red Ob and we grabbed ourselves a Rex, just in case things got a little bit too frisky for us. So we jumped on the RG, we said goodbye to our little Rex army, and then we took off, in hopes that we would survive these next few caves, as they were the hardest on the island. But to be completely honest with you guys, they aren't that hard. All you need is a little bit of patience. See, if you rush in the cave, you're gonna die, and you need to formulate a plan before you go into some of these caves. See, in this cave, I decided to take some of the heat and try and lure a large number of bats outside. After dealing with the bats, I thought that was the end of them, but I could hear them in the walls, and to my surprise, they somehow made it outside and were attacking my RG. We had done it. We had made it to the artifact. Now all we had to do was kill this blasted bat that was stuck behind the artifact. And unfortunately for us, the artifact's hitbox was blocking us from killing it. But not only that, we were dealing with a level 145 bat. So that means I could go down at any point trying to fight this thing. But still, where there's a will, there's a way. And I thought to myself, if I can get over to this little ledge, maybe, just maybe, I might be able to hit this thing. And thank goodness, it actually started hitting it. And before you knew it, the bat was done, so I grabbed the artifact and got the hell out of there. We narrowly missed the one spot that has killed a lot of players in this game. Then we slowly made our way to the entrance of the cave, making sure there were no other bats left. Otherwise, things could have got a little bit hairy. We were still on edge, looking around every single corner, but thankfully, we made it to the entrance. And with that, we had the artifact secured. After leaving the artifact cave, a blue drop caught my eye, and I couldn't help myself but spend the remainder of the night drop hunting in the snow. We had made it to the next cave by the afternoon of day 65. We'd braced ourselves, as we knew this cave was going to be a big one. But it's not that the cave was hard, it's just that there's a hell of a lot of dinos to take care of, and a hell of a lot of scenery to take in. Now, even though I'd lived in this cave for well over 3 years, and that's not even a bloody joke, I felt like this cave was completely strange. See, without a lot of structures everywhere, this cave really is beautiful and truly deadly at the same time. We were taking it very slow through the cave, as we did boost the difficulty level, and when I say we had to take it slow, I mean we had to take it very slow, because one of these dinos could potentially one hit kill me, and that would be the end of the playthrough. Even though everything was trying to kill us in this cave, we still had one more thing to worry about, and that was the freezing cold temperatures. But thankfully, we made it to the artifact before freezing to death. But the ride wasn't over yet. As we got to the entrance of the cave, a wolf was attacking our RG and knocked it straight off the edge. So we had to run for our RG's life and try and save it. And with that, we had our next 2 artifacts secured and at home. Only 2 left.
1, 2, 3, fuck it.
So, we spent the next 3 days being a good old base bitch. We ended up building a few more houses using the rest of our resources, and we ended up with a little town to go with the castle. It looked kinda sweet, if you'd ask me, but it was pretty much made out of scraps, so nothing really matched and everything was kind of out of place, but it done the job and it looked kind of cool. We also tamed up a few dolphins. They were only low level, but we didn't need the highest level for what we were going to do next, and that was the next artifact cave. So we forced them to have a baby against their will, but I'm sure they loved every second of it. After the baby was born, we had a sudden realization. We weren't going to sit here and wait for this thing to be done, so we went out for a bit of a hunt for some drops. And then we got bored of that, so we went straight to the swamp cave. Now, this cave here is great for leveling your character. If you pop a few XP notes and then come here with a Megatherium, you'd hit level 100 on any official server in less than an hour, and that's not a joke. There's just one thing you gotta look out for, and it's these bastards here destroying all your armor. And as soon as your armor goes, you have to replace it or you're gonna die very quickly. The artifact was found easy enough, and we also happened to find a drop, and inside of the drop we finally found some half decent loot, but it was something I'd already previously crafted. Then, out of nowhere, my armor was destroyed and I was about to die. I didn't know what to do, so I thought immediately run to the entrance of the cave. There was no time to mess around. My heart was beating. I was pretty much holding my breath at this point, praying that I'd make it to the entrance. I didn't actually believe we had made it outside the cave. I had to sit there and regain my composure, and without a second thought, I ran straight back in to grab Bearstain, the hero of this story. At this point, I was questioning myself. Was it skill, or was it just luck? It was crazy how I'd make it out of every situation with 1 split second to spare. I make this shit look easy. As soon as we got back to base, we threw out Bearstain, and then went to check on the dolphin, and to our surprise, it still was adolescent. So we had a lot of waiting to go. So we decided to spend the rest of the afternoon just chilling out. I started to get a little bored, so I started to mess with this Trudon, and he started to mess with me a little bit. I'd been stuck on this island for 71 days, and it was finally getting to me. And after watching this for God knows how long, we started to contemplate life and death. And what are the true questions to the answers we seek. How did I get here? And how the hell do I get home? By day 72, we'd snapped the hell out of it, and we tamed ourselves a Murph. You know, he's a cool little dino to have. Then we decided to take the dolphin out to level it up, and that involved taking out the biggest thing in the sea we could find. And with that out of the way, we dubbed him Flipper, a beautiful name for a dolphin that looked like it was covered in an oil spill. While we were swimming out in the ocean, we decided to visit our favourite underwater cave. Now, this underwater cave is our favourite for a reason. It holds one of the most valuable items in this game. And I know what you're going to say, how do you think a note is the most valuable? I don't know, you tell me. And with that, our exploration was almost over. Only one more artifact cave to do. My heart was racing as I knew this cave was gonna be a hard one. I had done this cave many times before, but it had been years since I'd even played the island to do anything more than a note run or raid someone's base. But we could feel all the memories slowly rushing back. Stick to the middle as you're going through, then slowly make your way to the top. Keep your eye out for a hole to your right. Do not go through that hole, but stay close. Go through the second hole you see. There may be something there you need to avoid. Straight below that, there's a little tunnel. Go straight through that and hold your breath, because this is going to be a bumpy ride. Once you've made it through all that mess, get straight to the artifact. You got to be very quick, because there's going to be a fuckload of dinos tailing your ass. Now, clench your booty, as you're going to have to go straight back through the tunnel of death. Once you made it through the tunnel of death, try to find your way back through the same hole you came through to begin with. And then once you're through that, you should see the entrance to your right side. And with that, we were on the home stretch. Even though it had been years since I'd done this, I still remembered every little part. But that's not to say I wasn't shitting myself the entire time. But we had made it to the entrance. Thank fucking God. The adrenaline was pumping through our veins, and we weren't really thinking straight. But we had a goal, and that was to defeat the last guardian of the island. So we flew over to the volcano and picked up the 2 artifacts we needed. And then, without a second thought, we flew straight back to the castle and started the boss fight. I couldn't help but think I was missing something. And I bloody was. But there was no time to think. I had a dragon breathing fire down my throat, and before you know it, I remembered what I was forgetting. It was my armor. I had no spare armor, and barely any med brews. We were kinda fucked. But we didn't let doubt cloud our minds. We were gonna do this, no matter bloody what. But then I noticed something flying over my head, so I rushed to the Rexes for them to protect me. And thank God, we had almost died, yet again. But we weren't dead yet. The dragon had landed, so I whistled my Rex army to attack. I sat back, as I wasn't wearing any armor, and one little bit of fire breath possibly would have ended this 100 days. But I noticed the dragon's HP wasn't dropping quick enough. So I roared with my Yudi, and I watched the rest of the dragon's health just melt away. And with that, the last guardian was taken care of. My mistakes almost ended me, but somehow we made it. Somehow we've defied death over and over again. Next stop, the tech cave. But first, Alright, that's enough messing about. We ain't here to fuck spiders. With the tech cave in mind, we needed a stronger army. And here comes my favourite part of the game, breeding. See, when I used to play official in a mega tribe, my one job was a breeder. That and base defense. But there was no need to defend a base here, so there was only one job I had to do, and that was to raise these little bastards. And there was a reason why I was the breeder. I don't know why, but in Ark, I'm just lucky. The very first Rexes we had were twins, and they just so happened to have the stats we needed. Which brings me to a big topic of breeding. See, we had a lot of baby Rexes, and with a lot of baby Rexes comes a cycle of breeding. And unfortunately, not everyone makes the cut. See, you need to take a few lives in order to get some good stats. And some of them weren't really going willingly. They needed a little extra push, as I didn't want no shit stats. With each baby I killed, a little piece of my heart just got torn away. See, there were certain stats we were after. We weren't after oxygen, and we weren't after stamina. We were after HP and melee damage. Coming back to the cycle of breeding. See, when you kill a Rex, you end up feeding a whole bunch of Rexes. Just try to forget about the fact that it's forced cannibalism. But still, they demanded more meat, and that involved me doing a hell of a lot of meat runs. And this group of babies was only small compared to what we're going to have in the near future. See, to be a good breeder, you can't get attached. Even if you watch these babies grow slowly up into adults, you cannot get attached, as the first generation of Rexes will end up as baby food. So, yeah. But that's just how the cycle of breeding works. And if you're trying to go for mutations, unfortunately, it's the biggest part of the process. Having to say goodbye. So, the first was replaced by the second, and the second replaced by the third, and the third generation by the fourth, and so on and so on, until we had the mutations we needed for the boss fight. In between, we also did a few drops, but we weren't always lucky. And you could say the same for a hell of a lot of Rexes, as unfortunately they had to become baby food, and we had to follow rule 1, don't go soft. And that went on for what felt like an eternity. After 20 days of doing nothing but killing baby Rexes, the green orb was starting to feel like Epstein's Island, so I needed a break. So I packed up shop and I went to the volcano for a night to visit good old Speedo. We also ended up grabbing a bunch of resources from the volcano, as we would need them for our next project, and that was to build ourselves a greenhouse. Not only did we really need a greenhouse for the last boss in the tech cave, but it was the final piece to our little home. At one point, we had so many Rexes breeding, it was like a giant orgy. It was kind of disgusting to watch, but we needed it for the mutations, and eventually we got a mutation we were very happy with. Then we decided to go out and celebrate, and look, I know you guys are going to be surprised, but once again, we almost got killed, but somehow, just somehow, we ended up getting away. As I was running away for my dear life, I thought to myself, I want to get the hell off this island. So, without a second thought, I went straight to the volcano. But this time, we weren't there to visit Speedo. We were here to set up for the tech cave. It felt like such a relief to finally be doing the tech cave. but we still had a lot more to go. First, we had to set up all the dinos. And without a doubt in my mind, the OGs were going to be the first ones in. The ones that had made it through every single boss fight. They were going to be the ones that were standing by my side as we took on the Overseer. We spent all night and all morning setting up the dinos, lining them up and setting their following distance to low so they would all follow each other. And eventually, we had it all set up. The OGs at the front and the army at the back. The DPS machines that we had spent 20 days breeding. There was only one thing left to do. And that was to finally activate Windows. Nah, I'm only joking. We had a few final things to set up, and then chill out to day 100. See, what better place to chill than the castle? As we were chilling, something caught our eye, and we thought to ourselves, that's enough chilling for one day. Time to get to business. The doors had closed, with over half of our army left outside. We were fucked. But still, we weren't gonna let this drag us down. We pushed forward with the Allosauruses, and within the first few seconds, I'd been ripped off my tame. After all that mess, I went straight back up to the top of the cave, and I reorganized all of the Rexes. Even though we lined up every Rex perfectly, we still ended up in a little bit of a knot. And just as I jumped off my Rex, a Purlovia jumped out of nowhere. But not only that, I was picked up and almost dragged to my death. Lucky for me, my boys had my back. But in the stress of the moment, I whistled neutral, and I completely forgot about it. So I lined up the Rexes and moved forward. And to my surprise, one fatal mistake almost lost me this playthrough, and still, this cave was not done with me yet. I was losing Rexes left and right, even though I only had half of the army I wanted to bring in. So I used my brain, and I took one of the OP Rexes to take out most of what was in the cave. I was still in shock and disbelief. I almost lost it, right at the very end, over one stupid mistake. But I still had a few Rexes, and I still had the soldiers at the very top of the cave. We made our way down to the very bottom, and then a Giga appeared. I was prepared to fight this Giga, but with the army that I had left, I didn't think it was possible. So, I may have cheesed it a little. Taking on a 195 giga was not a good idea. And with him taken care of, we grabbed the rest of the army and we brought it down. We also paid respects to our fallen soldiers and watched some of them slowly burn to death. But there was no time to reminisce. It was either now or never. We pushed through with what little army we had left, but I still had faith. I had bred some of the Rexes to be strong as mother flippers, so I had the most faith we were gonna make it through this fight. I prepared myself for the worst, but I prayed for the best. It was time. We marched our way straight towards the boss arena, and we noticed the Earth was not what it once was. But Australia seemed fine to me, so I was pretty happy about that. Everything we had fought for had built up to this one moment in time. All 3 bosses taken out, and only one left. It was time to make this overseer my little bitch. We had finally beaten the last boss of the island. And not only did we beat the island, but we destroyed every single boss the island had to offer. And we did it all without even a scratch. Well, there might have been a few scratches, but nothing a good beer down at the pub couldn't fix. I was feeling extremely anxious to finally go home after 100 days of surviving. I had separation anxiety, as I didn't want to leave my friends behind. But there was no time to get sentimental, as I was going home, baby. Or so I thought.
Oh. What a coinky dinky.
What's a coinky dinky?
I spawned next to the same fucking crab but in a different area. Ah! Oh my god. Save me. Oh my god, are the sheep chasing me? The sheep are chasing me! Oh my god, is he gonna hit me too? There's another crab. I'm dead. GG. GG. GG.
What was that, Jacko? Hardcore be easy.
I think it's fucking easy. This is simple.